The Islamic Prophet Muhammad had a very eventful life with many highs and lows, and many stories of his life have been recorded by his companions and people close to him. In this episode of FTD Facts, I'll be looking at 10 surprising stories of the Prophet Muhammad. Hey guys, what's happening? Welcome back to another episode. LEROY Kenton here. And there's so many interesting and surprising stories about Prophet Muhammad, but I'm just going to give you 10 in this episode. Starting at number 10, we have the first revelation of the Quran. This one is actually pretty cool. So Prophet Muhammad, he spent a lot of his time in prayer and meditation, just getting his mind focused on God and what he has to do in his day-to-day life. And one of these times that he was praying and meditation, he received his first revelation of the Quran from God. Muslims know this as the Night of Power. Muhammad was meditating in a cave on Mount Hira when he saw the angel Jibril, also known as Angel Gabriel, and the angel commanded him to recite the words, and the words are recorded actually in the Quran, and it goes as follows. Read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clinging substance. Read, and your Lord is the most generous who taught by the pen, taught man what he did not know. And specifically that's found in the Quran, Surah 96, verses 1 to 5. Now the next surprising story is the splitting of the moon. So way back then, the polytheists at the time of the Prophet, they kept on insisting that they wanted to see a miracle. They were demanding one. And they said that they're going to believe in the Prophet Muhammad's message if he could show them a sign by splitting the moon in half. So when God granted the Prophet Muhammad the ability to do so, he called the polytheists to take a look, and the moon was actually split in two. But, they still rejected his message, even though they said that if they saw a sign like that, they would believe. Now, moving on to the story at number 8, we have the Prophet Muhammad's chest opening. Okay, guys, so Prophet Muhammad, he stayed with the tribe of Bani Sa'd until he was about 4 years old, and that was when his chest was split open. What am I talking about? It's actually been reported in the hadith that when Prophet Muhammad was playing with two boys, Jibril came and took Prophet Muhammad away, split open his chest, and took out his heart. Jibril then took a lump out of the Prophet Muhammad's heart and said, "This is your portion of Satan." Next, he washed Prophet Muhammad's heart with Zamzam water in a gold container. After that, Prophet Muhammad's heart was joined together and restored to its place in his chest. Prophet Muhammad's face had changed color. Also, Anas, who narrated this hadith, he added this: "I saw the mark of the thread of Prophet Muhammad's chest." And this is in reference to the part where his heart was taken out and closed back up. And as he got older, that mark still was there on his chest. The story at number 7 involves Prophet Muhammad becoming invisible. When the Prophet Muhammad planned to migrate to Medina, the tribes of Mecca, they came up with this plan to kill him. Now each tribe, they sent a representative and they surrounded the house where Prophet Muhammad was one night. But Muhammad, he actually just walked out in front of them and nobody saw him. They were completely blinded to him. It was a very miraculous event. Moving on to the story at number 6. So once the Prophet Muhammad was with around 300 of his companions, and the place that they were gathered was a place called Zara. Then the time of the afternoon prayer came, but the people, they didn't find anywhere to wash themselves. So the Prophet told them to take a look and see if they can find a little bit of water. So they found a little bit of water, and then he dipped his hands into it, and out of his hand started flowing fountains of water. All 300 people, they were able to wash themselves so that they were able to perform their prayer. Halfway in at number 5, let's look at the story of the horse and the sand and the assassin. So the Prophet Muhammad and Abu Bakr, they were on their way to Medina when they were being followed by an assassin named Suraka. So Abu Bakr began to get a little bit scared, but the Prophet Muhammad looked at him and said, "Don't be sad, Allah is certainly with us." Then he looked towards the assassin named Suraka, and his horse's feet actually started to get stuck in the sand and he started to sink. And Suraka was able to, free up himself, free the horse as well. And then he tried to continue following the Prophet Muhammad and Abu Bakr again. But then his horse's legs got stuck another time, and then smoke started coming out of the sand. And when he saw this, Suraka was like, okay, I'm not messing with this guy anymore. There's definitely something up. He's definitely protected by God. So he ended up turning back, and Prophet Muhammad and Abu Bakr were spared. Moving on to the story at number 4, we have the marriage to AISHA. This is one of the most controversial stories involving Prophet Muhammad. But either way, Lady AISHA, she was a noble daughter of Abu Bakr, who was the father-in-law of Prophet Muhammad. And she was much younger than Prophet Muhammad. And that's the thing that is very controversial for a lot of people. Now, there was one time where the Prophet Muhammad was asked by his companions about the most beloved person to him, and he answered saying Aisha. And then they said, okay, well, what about the most beloved person to you from among men? And he said her father, Abu Bakr. The marriage of Prophet Muhammad to Lady Aisha, it was based on a divine command, as Lady Aisha narrated that angel Gabriel came to the Prophet Muhammad carrying a green silk cloth with her image on it and said, "This is your wife in this world and in the hereafter." And this is found in the Hadith al-Tirmidhi. Number 3 brings us the times where Prophet Muhammad actually saw a jinn. So in some of the Hadith and the Quran, it actually mentions that Prophet Muhammad saw and spoke with the jinn. Abu Hurairah narrates in the Hadith that the Prophet Muhammad said, "I saw a demon of the jinn at the night of Miraj," which is ascension, and he was following me with a torch of fire in his hand. I saw him at my every glance. And then Gabriel said, "I can teach you a prayer if you like. When you read it, his torch will fade away and he will fall down onto his mouth." The Prophet said, "Okay." Gabriel said, "Read this. I take refuge in Allah from wickedness descending from the sky and ascending to the sky, the wickedness created on the earth and the wickedness coming out of the earth, from disorders of the day and night, from troubles that are risen during the day and night for the sake of Allah and his perfect words. O merciful, accept the things that bring goodness." Also, the Quran mentions that a group of jinn came to the Prophet. They listened to the Quran being recited, they believed him, and they went back to their jinn community and advised them to also accept this message. And by the way, the reference to this is found in Surah 72 verses 1. Number 2 leads us to the Battle of Badr. This is a major event in Muslim history. The Battle of Badr happened around 624 CE, and it was a major military victory led by the Prophet Muhammad that marked a turning point for the early Muslim community, or Ummah, from a defensive standpoint towards one of stability and expansion and offense. It boosted the morale of the Ummah like crazy. It has great significance due to the fact that it is also mentioned in the Holy Quran. As a matter of fact, it's the only battle mentioned in the Quran. The victory of Badr was so important for growing the Muslim community that it was believed to be miraculous. This victory confirmed the divine nature of the new religion of Islam to the Ummah, and the Quran says the victory was because of divine intervention. It goes as follows: "Indeed, Allah made you victorious at Badr when you were vastly outnumbered. So be mindful of Allah, perhaps you will be grateful." And that's taken from Surah 3 verses 123. And the final story we end off on is a story of ISRA and MIRAJ. The ISRA and the MIRAJ refer to 2 parts of a miraculous journey that the Prophet Muhammad took in one night from Mecca to Jerusalem, and then the ascension up into the heavens. The journey is believed to have taken place over a year before the Prophet Muhammad migrated from Mecca to Medina. And on this journey, he met prophets of old like Moses and Jesus and Abraham and many others. He also was able to lead them in prayer, and he ascended to a point that was so close to the presence of God that he could actually hear the pens writing people's deeds. And this is something that happens in the presence of God. He saw heaven and hell, and he was elevated into the presence of God, but he, of course, did not see God's face at all. All right, guys, so that wraps up this episode. This was a look at 10 surprising stories of the Prophet Muhammad. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. This one was by request, and that's what we do here on FTD Facts. We take requests of various different topics that you want to see. So if you do have any suggestions for future videos, sound off down below. Don't forget to leave a like before you get on out of here. Until next time, guys, stay awesome, stay educated, and I'll see you real soon.